Welcome back to the Apprentice 1-to-1 podcast. We have got Craig back with us this week. He was missing last week having his annual haircut. You can see he's come up nice and fresh. How are you, Craig?
Yeah, good, thanks. You?
Yeah, I'm great. Cheers for jumping on again. I appreciate it. I know you're really busy with the world of being a new dad. It's not really the haircut, if anybody was actually wondering. And Jamie's with us as well. How are you, Jamie, mate?
All right, mate. It's died off a bit of work, so I can actually relax a little bit now, which is nice.
Good stuff. Well, that's always nice, isn't it, when you've got a bit of time, as long as you're still bringing the money home.
Well, I was off today, and then someone field goal next week for me, so I've had a day. I think that's enough, don't you?
Brilliant.
Lazy, really.
And we've got a new guest with us on the podcast. Aidan's actually been on and spoke to me before in the past as well. But we've got Aidan from the world of Instagram, and I'll tag his handle in the description below if anybody wants to jump off and speak to him afterwards. But how are you, Aidan?
Thanks.
Good stuff. Nice of you to join us. And I can see you looking sharp there in your Hager gang top. Have you recently acquired that through a CU board you've chucked up somewhere?
Yeah. To be honest, we only use Hager. We're going to try a
bastard.
We're going to try a Skullmore one whenever we need to fit one. But we've jumped around in the past from like Wilex to Hager to Skullmore to a couple others. But I think Hager for me it's the easiest one to fit, and it's just, everything's there. You just wash on the wall and then just put all your cables into it.
So are you like one of those, Aidan, and now you're talking about Skullmore? Do you feel like you've gone from shopping in Tesco to Aldi or something? Is that where you're like?
I've heard good and bad things. I mean, I think the main reason why we're going to jump over is, or try them at least, is because the Skullmore range come with, like, I believe it's an SPD already fitted, where the Hager ones you have to buy it, and it's a bit more, a bit more money.
The big firms are losing it, aren't they? The big firms aren't doing very well. I've gone to Fusebox. Well, I don't recommend things, but I would use them. I would say try them. They're really good.
And I think that I haven't fitted a Skullmore personally, but, people I know that have, they're finding it really hard to find differences between your likes of Fusebox and Skullmores compared to your Hagers and things these days. I think it's becoming such a competitive market that it's going to be interesting to see what happens with it, because for me, I struggle with Hager, the fact of they don't do double pole RCBOs and different bits and pieces. I think for something that costs so much money, you really are wanting it to be top of the range, aren't you? And I see it like you want a Ferrari and you've got no car stereo in the car. It's a bit like, doesn't do it for me, but I don't fit those boards, so I can moan about that personally.
Anyone following my channel have seen we're on a bit of a mission to try and install every brand. We've done a few of the Illusion boards, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with those. They are just single pole, those ones as well. I did think they were double pole for a while, but they're actually not, for anyone who's watching and wondering. And as Jamie said, the Fusebox ones, you can't really knock them at the price point. Double pole.
How can you do every brand, Mark? What?
I'm trying.
You're trying just because you say you can, because if you get the callbacks, you're going to be trying to get all these mad breakers.
I've been selective in some of the ropey ones are going in family and friends' houses. So some of the more budget branded ones that I might be a bit concerned about and not really wanting to put on my customers, I'm selecting the premises they're going in carefully.
He's trying to build his own cool wall from Top Gear with
impartiality.
You know what, though? From doing it, I haven't really found many that are that bad, really. They're all pretty decent, in fairness. There's no real shockers out there that I've come across so far.
Plastic. The shit died with plastic fuse boards because they were crap, weren't they? They looked like they was made out of old VHS cartridge plastic.
Yes.
And when they got rid of plastic, to be fair, the standard fuse boards just was flat, which was good.
Yeah, no, you're right. But we haven't really come on to talk about fuse boxes. We've got Aidan with us, who is on his journey. We want to speak about
fuse boxes.
What is a qualified electrician? That's kind of the journey in this series. We had Ash last time speaking about his route through EAL and his journey on there. We've got Aidan, who's on his apprenticeship now. There's other people coming on afterwards. We want to get all of your experiences for how you're kind of finding it. So to start with that, Aidan, are you still at level 3, year 3? Is that where you're at the minute?
No, I've done my level 3. I'm doing my AM2. So is that
awesome.
class still level 3? I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
the
so
whole the whole apprenticeship as a whole is classed as a level 3 apprenticeship over the 4 years. So it's just dependent. If you're onto your AM2, I'm guessing you've gone into year 4 of your apprenticeship now, or just about to go into year 4. Yeah, cool. So you've kind of done the majority of the learning in college and are now just sort of finishing off your portfolio and getting prepared for your AM2 assessment.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Are you a proper apprentice? Then are you through scheme JTEL or something, or?
No.
But do you go to work 4 days a week, don't you, and then go to college 1 day a week? You're employed by a company.
Yes. I don't have day release though. I think the only time I went to college this year was for 2 weeks. That was to do the 18th edition, and then I won't go back there until I'm close to AM2, and they'll just give me like a refresher with testing and possibly conduit and all that other stuff that you have to do, and then they'll send me off to an independent company to do my AM2 test. But
so not a traditional apprentice route. You're working for a firm or putting you through it properly by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
But you're not doing a traditional apprenticeship.
No.
Right, got you. Because there's so much variation in this now. I've worked out.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm on about.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who. I don't know if it was Nick Bundy. But no, I don't think it was him. Somebody was talking about they're bringing in a domestic spark course. I don't know who said it.
It might have been me or Craig or Jamie. We've all been talking about it. It's been...
Yeah, and it's interesting. But how would they do it so you can progress to industrial? Because there's only so much you need to know for domestic, and there's like a lot that you need to know for industrial, like the 3-phase motors and the big boards and all that sort of stuff, and all the containment and all that. How do you step it up from domestic to that?
That's
So
going
I
to be the key
believe-
difficulty. Craig can fill us in on that one.
I believe they're planning to do a top-up year. So say you were working for a company and only done domestic, and therefore you done the domestic apprenticeship instead of what we'll class now as the full apprenticeship. And if you were moving firms in the future, you would be able to do, and it hasn't been written yet, so everyone who's got kind of an opinion on it kind of needs to just wait, because we don't know what the actual assessment is. But the idea of the concept is you'd effectively, like you're in year 4 now, getting your industry experience, working on site, and then getting ready for your AM2. There'll be something similar that goes along with the domestic apprenticeship. So they will have done an AM2 in the domestic apprenticeship, but there'll be some sort of assessment or portfolios or workbooks that will then be for the parts you missed effectively from what we currently class as the apprenticeship compared to the domestic apprenticeship. So anybody who's going and doing gold carded, as we class gold carded now, would still have done 4 years across an apprenticeship or studying at some point in their time to gain the gold card. So all the conversations about it's shorter and it's this and it's that, if you're comparing it for industrial and commercial work, it wouldn't be. It just might be done in 2 parts.
It's a totally different qualification, isn't it?
I'm still confused, and we've been banging on about this for weeks, and I still ain't got a clue.
So yeah, I guess we need to wait.
If you're out there, don't worry. Don't worry if you're out there young and wondering what's going on, because no one does, really.
That's the truth of the matter, Jamie. It's still all to be made clear to everyone, and we're kind of second guessing what's going to happen. I can see a load of benefits from it. I know from speaking with you before, Aidan, you had a bit of a swap over in employment, didn't you? I think through the course of your training earlier on.
Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of enabling more employers to offer an apprenticeship, if they're able to do that just in the domestic sector, I think that'd open the door to quite a few more apprentice positions, which, for me, it'd be a good move, because it's hard getting people into work at the minute. What are you actually doing at the moment? Are you working in the domestic sector mainly, or are you doing a bit of everything still?
It's a bit of everything. I think last week I got a call out to a farm. It's a dairy farm, so it's local, and we do all the stuff there. So it's just like they've gone through the cable on the pump, the sewage pump. So yeah, it wasn't very nice, but I had to put a torpedo in that and fix it all up. But that was a 3-phase motor. So
sometimes you get the shit jobs, don't you?
Yeah, literally.
Like a whole farm. They're all shit, aren't they?
Yeah.
No one's been to a decent farm.
But you know what? If you don't go and do those jobs, Aidan, you never learn. Like, and I think that's the beauty of the electrical industry at the minute is it is so diverse, and there's only so much you can cover in a qualification. Like, I go out on site now and still find things I've not come across on a day-to-day basis, and I think the more we look at that as a positive, the more, rather than trying to think we've done a course, that's it, move on. Like, it's a good experience for you, and the more you can get your hands on, the better I think it is for you, to be honest.
Said last week, didn't I? What's the difference? Level 2 and level 3. Who said it's domestic? No one. It's just skills, base skills in it that you then adapt to wherever you go.
Yeah.
So bit of cable here, bit of cable there. The difference between a farm and an ass is a farm smells of shit. That's it, basically.
Some of the
they've got a few other differences.
Yes. Unless you're doing what is it? Some of the rental housing market can do that as well, I suppose. But yeah, it's just the fundamental principles of working with cable stuff, isn't it? No one ever said it was domestic, so you just got to twist around, and if you get used to it, you can make money out of it, can't you? Because if you're not scared to jump outside your box a little bit, then you're well away.
Yeah, but a lot of it as well, the protection for animals is completely different to humans. So the RCDs need, I think they're more. So they're more than 30 milliamps for animals. And it's complete different protection over there in the farm. And you're jumping between two worlds, if you will.
Yeah, how have you found that?
I'm intrigued now. What? Because I've never done a cattle farm. I've never worked at the cattle farm, so I'm intrigued as to that.
Well, I don't. My Regs book's in the van, so I couldn't.
I'd have to look myself. I know four-legged animals are more susceptible to carking it, aren't they? Basically,
I think it basically goes down to 300 milliamp RCDs to make sure that there's protection against, rather than 30 milliamps. I think you've got to have a lot more selectivity between your boards.
Yeah. Because
a lot of farms are going to be TT installs, generally, it's about front loading RCDs over the main tails to make sure the whole installation is protected, rather than just having kind of final circuits on it, and making sure you've correctly managed that selectivity. And fire will be a big one when you're looking at RCDs as well, because you don't want your shed going up with all your money in it, effectively. Because the farmers, that's what it is, isn't it? They are money to their business and whatever else. So it's kind of covering a mix. The little bit I know about farms, which is not a lot, is covering the mix between having a TT installation on the outbuildings in the farm, but you may well have some sort of mains or network earthing into the actual household itself, and having to think about your potential zones and differences and bonding, where you've got such a broad spectrum, because farmland might be an awful lot wetter than and all those different considerations in that angle, I think. So that's my penny's worth of farms.
Someone will report me to the IT now, because I claim to be a gold card carrying spot, but I don't know anything about farms, so I'm sure I'll be getting some feedback from that.
We have a lot of special locations today.
We have a lot of farms around by us. Some of the dairy
for farms.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
some of the dairy farms end up on 10 milliamp RCDs in the milking areas, and from what Craig said, if you're starting at 300 milliamps at your source, as you come along your subdivided circuits, you're kind of running out of options, so you end up at those 10 milliamp levels, and it is a minefield.
705, fucking hell.
when you've got your fault and additional protection coming from your RCDs, it can get quite complex, and that kind of leads on to a bigger question around all this, because we talk about training on apprenticeships and how a lot of that is done in the college environment, but really the prime area of learning you're going to get in that environment, Aidan, is through your employer. I think that's something we need to be really mindful of, especially with this new domestic electrician apprenticeship. You're getting a day a week in the college with guys like Craig and Jamie when they're doing their teaching, but 4 days a week you're out on the shoulder of another electrician. I think it's really important to remember that.
And it's in the apprenticeship that every employer signs up to. So it's not to say that every employer is doing a bad job, because they're not. Equally, I don't think every college is doing a bad job, but there needs to be much more transparency. Like, when you sign an apprentice up, you sign up to that they only have 20% off of the job training. Therefore, that means the other 80% of the time, they need to be getting taught by the employer, because it's impossible for any organisation, no matter how good they are, to make up 80% of learning and 20% of the time that they've got contact with them on.
So pulling back into your route, Aidan, have you kind of been on block release then? Or has it been in the first 3 years, was you doing a day release to college? How did the first part of your training look?
So come out of school, I went to college, did my level 2. Yeah, did my level 2. Halfway through that, I found an employer. They took me on as a day release. Finished my level 2, and then just as I was going to go into my level 3, the company went bankrupt, and then I sort of had to get out of the electrical industry, 'cause financial reasons, and then I've jumped back into it. The past, well, I don't know, 3 years, jumped back into it. And then I did my level 3 at college, and then as soon as I finished my level 3, I contacted a local guy around me and said, "Can I come work for you? I'll work for a week for free," or something like that. And he was like, "Yeah, sure." I did that, and then he basically offered me a job, and he said, "Right, look, what is left for you to do?" And I know if you do domestic spark, you don't really need your AM2. You just need 2391. But I was like, well, I'd like it if I had my AM2, because then I could flash a gold card around.
Yeah, you know.
And plus, when you're on site, I think you'd be classed as a trainee, wouldn't you, or something like that, if you didn't have a gold card. If you didn't have AM2, so it enables you to access more sites easily, if you will.
Yeah, so you're right, and I know it's an unpopular opinion, and to be clear, this is not us necessarily sharing our personal opinion on the situation, but the fact of the matter is, under the ECS card for everybody's health and safety, if you are level 2 and level 3 qualified without an NVQ, you are getting a labourer's card for site. Yeah. And I know that because some places I work with, we've just renewed a load of people's ECS cards, and without having the NVQ and the AM2, they get a labourer's card. Now,
what about the trainee's card? Someone asked me about this today, so I'm going to have to interject.
So a trainee's card you can only have if you're on a valid apprenticeship to say that you're an apprentice learning.
Sorry about that, but I can now port someone to this video who messaged me today, so cheers for that. But yeah, carry on.
So whether people like it or not, agree with it or not, under the current legislation, legislation might be the wrong word, but under the current recognised scheme with the JIB and the ECS, without an NVQ and AM2, they don't term you as an electrician. For those who are not working in commercial and industrial and staying in domestic, well, the City and Guilds handbook still says that if you've finished level 3, you are qualified to an electrician's mate standard. It doesn't say an electrician. Now, that's good and bad. We know that Mark done a poll and there was a discrepancy between who had and who hadn't seen it, and it's a bit of a divide. But at the minute, in black and white, that is the situation that we are working to, and the CPSs are kind of starting to move back to that, aren't they, with the EES document and going back to the NVQ and AM2. So if your CPS recognises you as something different, I would say, well done, carry on. I'm not saying that anybody's not an electrician. I'm just saying from the advice of what in an educational establishment we should be recommending and getting people to sign. Yeah, the documents say that an electrician is once they've done their AM2. So I think you made the right choice by pushing your employer to let you go down that route.
Yeah. Is there a mate's card then?
There's a labourer's card.
So there's no electrician's mate's card?
Well, a mate as a labourer, it's just the requirement. So you can do all of the bits, you just can't do the final connections on site.
What? That's bollocks. Like a labourer sounds like someone who sweeps up.
They term it an improver card, I think.
They need something.
It might be called an improver card potentially, yeah. But effectively, when you go through the ECS application, the job levels I think come up as different levels, and on the level 2 or 3, it's either labourer improver, but one or the other. It's you can install everything on site, you just can't do final connections. And
That's not
depending
what
on the
labourer
sites,
means, though, is it? That's a bit. They need to look at that. That's not very good. Someone putting in a quite a lot of effort to get level 2 and level 3 and getting called a labourer could be quite off-putting. I think it's just not. It's not great, but I'm not interested.
let me look at the word then. Hang on.
I'll add to that. So I had a training card, and when I applied for it, I think I was just finished my level 2, and from that I had 2 or 3 years to complete level 3 AM2 and 2391, and then that was it. That card, I couldn't get that card back, and because I didn't do that, I can't apply for another training card. I have to go for a gold card next. Like, so.
Okay. So once you've made that application and you've had it, you can't then regather it later on. You have to make that step to the next grading.
I mean, I tried to do it. It was very difficult. I was on the phone for 2 hours with them, and it sounds bad, but when I was calling them, the person didn't actually know what I was trying to say, or you know, it's very confusing. With everything that you have to do for it, so the health and safety course for it, and then you have to prove certain things to them, and then it all gets lost, and then you just start from scratch again with them.
Yeah,
the apprentice one. I just tried to find it then, and like, you know, when I was an apprentice, it felt nice for that card, and you know, as you go up, it feels nice to get that card. I know it's like quite a, what is it? It's not. No one else cares, but you do. And for someone to do that amount of training, to get called a labourer, a labourer. I think that's not very good. They should bring back electricians, mate, so at least you feel like you're climbing that ladder.
So I've just had a look on the ECS website whilst we were doing it, in case I got the wording wrong. And when you go down through the card types that you can have, if we're talking installation electrician, because you've got maintenance and all the other types, is an installation electrician has a gold card, which says it must have a level 3 competency-based NVQ to be allowed to work unsupervised on the installations. Then they've got an electrical labourer card, which they put on here. It's for people working in the industry in a supportive role to assist electricians and other qualified staff with the installation of cables and other unskilled work under supervision. So technically anybody, according to the ECS, anybody who's not gold carded should be working supervised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a traditional mate, isn't it? They've called it a labourer now. What we would probably refer to as a mate is a labourer.
Yeah.
Well, when I was working on site, we were doing industrial. We did a massive Aldi block or something like. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. And we just ran.
Riddle's best.
You just did.
It was an office block for them, and we just ran all the electrics in. And some old chap, he did the second fix of the board and whatnot, but we were just dragging cables in, and there was people there that I would go up to and ask, what are we doing, and they'd have a CSCS card, not even an ECS, and on site I'd outrank them, but I would have to listen to them to, you know, it's completely,
and that's part of, sorry to cut you, as part of the thing with the electrical industry. The site you work on is only as good, and all these cards are only as good as the person managing the site and how much they stick to it. So I've been on some sites recently where all of our work permits are checked, and whilst we're working, people are coming around and inspecting to make sure that if it doesn't say you can be doing terminations and second fixing, you're not touching anything with terminations going into it. But you can be pulling in the cable, like you say, you can be making the containment, you can be doing all the first fix components for someone else to be coming round. And it really is down to, and that's why I say it's not my personal opinion as to what makes an electrician, because it's down to where you work. Somebody will tell me they've worked on a commercial site without a gold card, and I will just say, yeah, you probably have. Because it depends on who you work with. I mean, there's lots of people. We're on Amendment 2 of the 18th edition now. There's lots of people still working on site on the 17th edition.
I've worked with blokes in the 2000 when I was coming up my time. They'd be like, what calls you got? Because it was making people get cards at that point. Our firm were like, everyone's got to get a JB card. I'm like going, I ain't got any qualifications, not a sausage. And they were like gaffers and gangers, and they'd not got any written qualification whatsoever. But they're good sparks, but they just didn't have anything because that's how it was.
It is really common, isn't it? And I have the same experience with the ECS website back a few years ago, Aidan, where I found it really difficult to get all my data on. It kept crashing and all sorts. I think they have made a lot of improvements of late. And from speaking with the the JIB, I was stunned to find out that they actually have less than 10 employees looking after all of this. So they do really get the maximum bang for the buck that they can.
Yeah.
They take a lot of heat sometimes, but they're not overstaffed in any way. It is difficult for them. And you've kind of proved the point that, you know, you've been on all sorts of different journeys through your apprenticeship. You've been on an actual apprenticeship. You've had to swap over to your level 2 and level 3, and now you're finishing it off and going through your AM2. And through the course of Apprentice 1-to-1, I've met so many people in your exact situation, and it is quite complicated to navigate your way through that to end up qualified. So the fact you've persevered and got to where you are now, you should be really proud of yourself, mate, because you've made that happen. At the end of the day, it's not easy. There's people who will make excuses and play that card sometimes. You've actually stepped up, and as Sam would say, you haven't been a victim. You've actually got on and made it work. So good on you. You know, that has been a really difficult time. Well done. And I guess in preparing for your AM2 now, when are you actually looking at getting on that? When's this on the horizon for? Have you got a date yet, or is this still kicked down the road for a bit?
Yeah, I've got to do off the job training now. So I think last time I spoke to you, actually, I was sort of just thrown into it, and I was just left. Well, I wasn't left, but I was supervised, but from a distance, if you will, for a good month, 2 months, and I was sort of a bit like, oh, do I really want to do this? And then after that, it's just like the EOCRs I'd do, my boss would be there with his laptop. If he's not there with his laptop doing quotes and whatnot, he'd be just down the road, you know. So he'd be there watching me and talking to me, and it's just got better. I think he just threw me in to see what I could do, where I'm at, what questions, you know, was I going to ask him. But all these EOCRs that I've done, because I'm not qualified to do them, because I haven't got 2391, they're actually classes off the job hours. So I've got a ton that I can claim for, basically. But the college is a bit iffy. They've just changed over their software, so I'm struggling to get onto their site to log everything. And yeah,
is this where you upload evidence of your work?
Is this for an NVQ?
Yeah.
What's the change of software mid NVQ?
Yes.
Well, they're a bunch of penises, aren't they? What have they done that for? Why would you do that? That's interesting.
It was
Craig, come on, Craig, help. What do you reckon?
I can't talk for other colleges.
I can't see how that could be valid, though. You'd have to, surely they'd run out on what they're on. That's a bit weird.
Well, there must be some sort of map over documented criteria. It's hard to say someone's done something wrong.
I'm not saying they've done it wrong. I'm not saying they've done it wrong. I'm saying it's a bit unfair on the learner to change the software.
Yeah, and I think there may be reasons for it. Like, I'm not trying to defend them or be vague, but it's, you know, there may be reasons for it. It may be due to systems, it may be some financial implications, like it may be awarding bodies making the change. Like there could be a number of reasons why it's happened.
How recent was that, Adrian?
Aidan.
Aidan, sorry. Someone else. Adrian's off the Schwarzenegger film, isn't it? Adrian, no, off Rocky. Yeah. Sorry, go on. How long ago was it? I've got a feeling it. What did it used to be? What software was you using?
Oh, I don't know.
Was it one file?
Might have been. It's swapped now to Smart Assessor.
Smart Assessor is much more user-friendly once you get the hang of it compared to one file. Personally, I would take Smart Assessor every day.
See, I'm one file, but I know they've just changed their subscription method, so maybe Matt made it expensive. I don't know, but yeah, it's not great that they've changed it mid-flow, though. You think they'd run you out on your existing software, but
it was something to do with we couldn't upload documents efficiently or something. So they changed it to Smart Assessor, which is fair enough. But they changed it, I logged into it, brilliant. And then they reset everybody's password, and now I can't get into it at all. And I've contacted my assessor. He's like, I'll sort it. And it's been about a week and a half now.
I would go and speak to your student services department. Generally, being in a college, that sort of admin type stuff is done by student services or your library staff or whoever you have there. they're normally your best point of contact for some of that information. So maybe if you don't hear off your assessor, then get in touch with them and see where you go from there. But can I ask you a question? And it's not meant as a trick question, but I'm genuinely intrigued by your opinion, because I redone my quals a while ago because I wanted civilian versions of military quals and so on and so forth. And I felt proud when I got the gold card again and held it and renewed it all. Do you feel like your AM2 is a sufficient challenge for your time that you've had? And do you think it's, does it make you think, I want to go and do this because I'm going to feel proud when I've achieved this? Or do you think it's a pain in the ass? And there's not a right and wrong answer. I'm just genuinely curious, as an apprentice, are you looking at that and going, do you know what? When I get through that, I think I'm going to feel proud. Or are you looking at it and going, I think it's a waste of 3 days because I've already done so much more than what's on there?
It's good, and it could be cleaned up. That's what I would say. Because apparently I need to do termination of a cable 4 times for each single cable, like twin flex, SY, SWA, apparently. So it's just like, why is there so much on the NVQ? Okay, fair enough. You're going to get a qualification out of it. Okay. But then isn't that what the independent assessor is for?
So you're talking about the AM2 or the NVQ? Because the NVQ, if you're doing terminations 4 times, the reason that generally that's asked for is as an assessor. So, as myself coming out to see you, maybe only a handful of times, and maybe just from your portfolio itself, I have to put my name on a document that says, I deem that you are competent. And that if you then went out and killed somebody a week later, I may well end up in court having to justify my decision as to why I signed you off as competent.
Yeah.
So from an assessor's point of view, we've got to be pretty happy. And this is why I struggle when I hear about people saying dodgy assessments and this, that, the other is, there may well be, I'm not saying it's perfect, but you are, as an assessor, you are literally signing your name on the dotted line to say that as an experienced individual, you are saying that person is fit for purpose and able to go out into the industry and potentially work unskilled and unsupervised. So the 4 times the termination on cable, I would imagine, is your assessor's way of making sure that he sees enough evidence to make him feel like you're competent.
Yeah.
I do MVQs. I've had my first student pass through today, first one who I've done from scratch today. And I took it on as like a bit of an help out thing. Cheers, Mark. Not you, Craig. I took it on a bit of that. You know what? I've really started to enjoy it. And I really do think it is a very solid method of assessing quality. And I've got, there's various videos on my YouTube that people are free to watch because they're not specific to people I work for, but the misinterpretation of the NVQ system by students is just bonkers, which is why I put videos out to try and address it. Because for terminating 4 cable, it's not hard. You've got to deal with 4 different types of cable in a week. And it's not like just watching you do it. It's like, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it like that? Are you doing it? And talking about it. And I could honestly say I've really enjoyed the MVQs since I started doing them because I've helped people understand how easy it is. It's not as onerous as it sounds. Anyone that's making it really hard work might be doing it slightly wrong, but I find it to be quite a good system. And if you do one with me, you have to graph for it. I want to see you proving yourself to me and all that, but that's the quality line that I'm meant to adhere to. But I can honestly say a lot of people get a shit on about it at the start and moan and, oh, I'm doing this anyway. I had one guy the week going, I've been sparking for years, which I've got to do my MVQ now. And within 2 or 3 days, I'm picking him up on stuff in his video going, mate, that's not right. You don't do things like that. That's not how that's done. And I think it's quite a good system, the MVQ, I've got to say. I've improved my opinion of it since I've been involved with it, if I'm honest, as well.
Yeah, there's going to be differences of opinion from both sides of that. And like Aidan said, if he didn't really know the level of responsibility that someone like Craig or Jamie would be accepting in signing you up, you can maybe see that now from a broad spectrum of different students. They might have a better relationship with someone like you, and be happier that you're more competent, but they have to apply the same rules across the board. It's all about the gatekeeping of the qualification. And the AM2 being the endpoint assessment, as Craig was alluding to earlier, it was kind of, some people are saying that that's, you know, it's easy, it's pointless, it's a waste of time, it means nothing. And to me, I don't think that really inspires people like you, Aidan, to go and do it and attain it. Somebody in my position right now, I'm really proud of getting through those qualifications and having my gold card. And I think we should be working harder as an older age group, if you like, of raising the importance and value of that. So guys like you following afterward can see that it is really something to be proud of, and you should be really chuffed with yourself when you do achieve it.
I also think it's people think they'd pass it now, and that's not a slant of anybody as an electrician, but I don't think I'd pass my driving test again now.
I don't think you could do a 2391 exam again.
Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of like, you think you'd pass, and I'm sure you would, and I'm sure we all would, but it's going back to looking at that, isn't it? And going, well, actually, the habits you've picked up for years on site don't necessarily mean you're going to pass that assessment, because whether people agree with the methods or like the methods or not, and I have my own gripes with some of the things inside the AM2 and stuff, but that's personal, so not for this, is that it's assessed to the book. The same with the 2391. The amount of people that I've had come and say to me, oh, but that's how I do it on site. Fantastic, well done. But that's not what it says in the book. And this course says I've got to sign you off in comparison with the book, because that is the official correct way to do it. So I think more people would struggle than they give credit for the AM2. And I don't know if the slagging off of it is maybe a little bit of nerves. If you put 10 of us in a room again, how many would come out? Well, the statistics say 4 out of 10 of us would pass it.
Who is slagging it off though? Because I don't know if anyone is. I don't trust people that are slagging off loud about it, because I think it's all right. It's not the best. It's not the best, but it's a good start. It's been around for a long time. Who is actually saying it's not needed anymore?
There's a lot battling around on social media, isn't there, about whether it's valid and whether it's worthwhile and what a gold card actually means. And for me, as Mark said, I think that's the wrong message to be sending out. I think the reason I asked Aidan the question was, Aidan was hoping he was going to go, do you know what? That is a challenge that worries me a little bit. But when I do it, I'm going to hold that card up with a bit of pride and go, do you know what? I've drafted for 4, 5, 6 years, however long it's taken you on your journey and all the struggles you've had. Kind of like a completion day, if you know what I mean, for lack of a better term, like going and having that big celebratory, I've done it, I've joined the club kind of thing, or however it's termed.
Is it not one of them things that's great to moan about when you're trying to do it, but afterwards it's fucking brilliant that you've got it? Like, I think when you do it like, oh, this is wasting my time and all that, then when you do it like, you're going to straight away flip to one of the people that go, no, well, I've got my MVQ. You should stop moaning and get stuck in. I think it's one of them things. No one enjoys getting through it, but when you get through it after, it's like, yay, look at me, I'm dead cool.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the portfolio, it's not hard. You just take a load of pictures of you doing different things. The endpoint assessment, that does scare me, because it's just, I don't know what I know it's different bits of, like trunking, tray, I'm guessing a bit of testing and blah, blah, blah. But I've never done it, so I don't know what to expect. So the
best thing you can do is go on this site, and Mark will know it's better than me because he or the podcast someone, but go on the site and your pre-AM2 checklist, and this isn't giving any secrets away because it's public knowledge before anyone says it. The things it asks you to confirm that you are able to do on the pre-assessment checklist is what you are installing for your AM2. So if it asks you for an SY cable between motors and you're saying you're competent in doing it, the formats may change or whatever, but guess what? You're going to have an SY cable between motors that you need to install.
SY cable's not rated according to BS 7671.
Well, here comes a soapbox.
Don't start Jamie up about that.
I don't know why they've got it in the M2 if it's not regulated, but no, never mind.
So that PA checklist, lots of people just tick it off and go, yeah, it's fine. But if you actually look at it and pay attention to it, it lays out your build for you. It talks about your wiring centers for your boiler system. It talks about rings. It talks about lights. It talks about fire alarms. They're all what you are going to be doing. And what NVQ are you on? Do you know? Is it 5357 or 2357?
I couldn't tell you.
Find out, and the only reason I say that is because depending on what NVQ you're on, depends on what version of the AM2 you set. So you want to make sure you're planning for the one that's relevant to what you're actually doing, because the AM2, for example, and again, not hidden secrets, it's commonly explained on NET's website, you don't install conduit. Whereas if you're on the 5357, you have to install a couple of bits of conduit. So it's important you know what AM2 you're going to, because that's going to help you prepare for it the best.
Yeah, and I'll pop that in the show notes. There's the NET website, there's the checklist that you can fill in, and it also breaks it down into further detail on that website as well, and explains exactly what each section's involved, how long you get to do it. It's a really good place to start. There's some videos on there as well that can help you, so it's well worth checking that out. Any apprentice approaching their AM2, that's the best place to go, because there's no better people to tell you about the AM2 than the people who actually uphold that thing as a standard. So yeah, go and check that out, Aidan.
And be careful with prep courses, would be my advice. I've heard some horrors about prep courses and things that are in there that don't even make it to the day. In a lot of cases, the prep courses are a way for private training providers to make money before going to the AM2. And a lot of them that do the prep courses aren't AM2 centres, so they don't know necessarily what's contained in it anyway. So just do a bit of research. If you're going to do a prep course, take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
I mean, the checklist, if you've completed it honestly and you've done that alongside your employer and your trainers, you know, you'll be in the right place to take that assessment anyway. You've had quite a broad range of experience through this system of training to be a qualified electrician, Aidan. So if you're looking back and you know at any point in time you could have chose one of those options as something to see through from start to end, rather than trying to piece it together in the way you have, you know, what would you have picked? Would you have maybe gone for the full-time study and then doing the NVQ and AM2 as you are now, or would you have liked to have done it as a traditional apprenticeship all the way through? What would be your preference?
It's hard, because I haven't saw what like day releases is like. I only see it from this. I mean, to be honest, I'm quite happy doing it like this. It's just the college and the employer, they're a bit confused of like what the next step is, what do they need from us and whatnot. But I think if I had to do it a different way, I'd either do it through like day release with JTL or something like that. I think that's the only other way that I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing we need to work hard at as industry, is making more of these positions for people like yourself to do this training, because there's so many, and Craig will know from his time in education who are on 2365s and things like that, and there's just not employment prospects for them. So if we want these increased numbers of apprentices, we have to acknowledge as trade we need to make those roles for them. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And worthwhile roles for people as well, because it's easy to say, you know, a bad apprentice or this or that. But if we're honest with ourselves, if you turned up every day and all you got was go make that cup of tea and sit there until you've got the biscuits and go and pull out the van and there's nothing else that you're actually learning, I'd probably sit on my phone as well. I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to be, I've got to turn up and be interested in what you're giving me to do. Because then I'm going to want to learn, and then I'm going to want to be a good apprentice.
Oh, we've lost Craig. I think his Wi-Fi's hung up.
Gremlins.
Just me.
And then I'm going to want to do what you're asking me to do. Me, in my opinion, because do you know what? I want to be shit today. I just don't think people get up for that.
Yeah.
I do that some days, to be honest. Some days I'm going to be shit today. We'll troll everyone on the internet.
Is there anything anybody wants to add before we close this one out? I think it's been a really interesting chat, Ed, and hearing about your experiences and you know what you've got coming as well. It'd be interesting to get you back on when you're a bit nearer the time of doing your AM2 and see how you feel about it then, if you were up for that. But anything anyone wants to add?
Yeah, have you heard of the band The Blue Oyster Club?
No.
Have you heard of the song Don't Fear the Reaper?
No.
Because you're like, oh, I'm scared of AM2. Stop being scared of stuff and embrace it. That's what I would say. Stop being terrified of things and just get in there. If you fear the failure, you'll fail. If you don't fear the failure and see it as a challenge, you won't. And that my ski instructor taught me that before I broke 3 ribs on a jump once. But I still did the jump, you know what I mean? I failed hard, but like, don't fear it, embrace it. Like, I'm not yet like everyone's woke and all that, but nowadays it's like a big fear, like failing. Like, I remember doing my first driving test and I was half cut from the night before, but I still had a bash. You know what I mean? Just get in there and embrace it. Don't be scared of it. There's no point being scared it won't achieve anything. If you read up on it and research it, you can not have to be scared. You can just find out about it and not be worried about it. It's my advice. People get scared of stuff. Don't be. I do stuff that I'm dangerously underqualified to do all the time.
Anything else you want to add?
So many.
Oh, Craig's DJ'd again.
Your Wi-Fi's pulling up a bit, Craig. Are you still there? No, he's frozen on us. He's frozen on us. We'll jump back to him.
Say again, all from what you said last.
I just said so many nuggets in there about setting more.
Oh, the internet's denying us hearing Craig.
Do your driving test half cut. Like, so many golden nuggets there of advice.
It's cut out again. I think it's blocking you. I think the internet, the AI is working against you, mate. It keeps cutting out.
Must be doing. Anything you want to add, Aidan, before we leave it there?
No.
Oh, I just want to thank you again for coming on, and thanks again to Jamie and Craig for giving up their time to come and chat about all this. We're going to keep these coming on a weekly basis as best we can with people who have been on different journeys through the route of being a qualified electrician, in the aim of trying to help other people following in those footsteps as well. If you want to get involved in the discussion, join in on social media, get in the comments on this video. If you want to come on and speak to us, everybody is welcome. And towards the end, we'll try and pull this together into some sort of overview of other people's experiences. And, you know, the aim of it is to just try and help. So thank you to everybody who's watching, and we will see you on the next one.
Vote for the Reaper.
Stop the record.